This is a Squiz podcast. We're your shortcut to being informed.
Squiz Kids! It's your daily news fix. Fun, free, fresh.
Good morning and welcome to Squiz Kids Today, your fresh take on what's happening in the world around you. I'm Bryce Corbett. It's Tuesday, February 1. In Squiz Kids Today, floods in the outback. It's Chinese New Year. Rafa is the goat and rocket on collision course with the moon. That's what's making news, kids style.
The lowdown.
Operation Desert Drop was well and truly underway yesterday as the Australian military airdropped emergency supplies to towns in South Australia after some of the worst flooding there the area has seen. Days and days of heavy rainfall in the Aussie outback has cut off roads and damaged train lines, leaving many towns completely isolated. One such town is Coobapedy, an opal mining town in central South Australia, famous for its high summer temperatures and townsfolk who live in underground houses. The Army and Air Force were yesterday making emergency flights into Coobapedy to drop off 6 days' worth of food and supplies for 2,500 residents who have been trapped by rising floodwaters. Groceries on the supermarket shelves in Darwin, in the Northern Territory, and as far west as Perth are also expected to thin out in the coming week. With roads and train lines in South Australia cut off by floodwaters, lots of shipments of goods interstate will be held up for the next few weeks. And with more rain expected to fall later this week, it could be a while before those all-important transport routes open up again. And while it's not great for affected residents of South Australia, Northern Territory and Western Australia right now, it's hoped that all the rain will be good for local farmers in the months to come. Every cloud has a silver lining after all. If you're in outback South Australia listening to this, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au and let us know how you're going. And above all, stay safe.
Spin the globe.
Each day we give the world globe a spin and find a news story from wherever it stops. And today we've landed in Beijing, or Shanghai, or Chengdu, or anywhere in China. Because today is the most important day on the Chinese calendar, the start of Lunar New Year. Gong Hei Fat Choi. That's how, in my very clumsy Chinese, you say Happy New Year in Cantonese. In Mandarin, the other dialect of China, it goes something like this: Xing Nian Kuai Lu. I've popped links in your episode notes to pronunciation guides. Give it a try yourself. More than 1 billion people all over the world celebrate Chinese New Year with parades, feasts, firecrackers, and family. And what's better than a party? Well, a party that lasts 2 weeks, of course. That's right. Lunar New Year goes until February 15, which is when there'll be a full moon. Lunar means of the moon, after all. Each year is associated with one of 12 animals, and 2022 is the year of the tiger. Growl! If you happen to be turning 12 this year, you're also a tiger, which apparently means you're brave and strong. I'm a pig, which I have to say doesn't sound nearly as cool.
Sport time.
Spanish tennis ace Rafael Nadal, better known as Rafa, was in full recovery mode yesterday, resting his weary bones and tired muscles after Sunday night's titanic struggle to win the men's singles at the Australian Open. In a match that went for 5 hours and 24 minutes, yikes, and which kept half of Australia falling asleep on their couches as they hung out to see who would win, Rafa clawed back from behind to beat his opponent, Russia's Daniil Medvedev, in a grueling 5-set game. Grueling is a fancy word for really hard, which is how hard Rafa had to work to win. Going into the tournament, he had foot surgery and COVID, so, not the ideal preparation. The victory also made a little bit of tennis history, making Rafa the first man to win 21 Grand Slam titles, beating Novak Djokovic and Roger Federer to the prize, both of whom have 20 Grand Slam titles each. A Grand Slam is the name given to the 4 biggest tennis tournaments that take place around the world each year: the Australian Open, the French Open, the US Open, and Wimbledon.
Spaced out.
If you happen to have plans to be on the moon sometime around March 4, you might want to keep your eyes open for an out-of-control rocket which is expected to crash onto the moon's surface. Astronomers, who are people that study our galaxy, reckon the rocket, which went up into space 7 years ago, will smash into the moon at a speed of about 8,000 kilometers an hour, which is like super fast. There are lots of rockets and rocket boosters floating around in space above our heads. Many of them orbit the Earth for a bit before burning up in our atmosphere on re-entry. This one, though, has decided to pay a visit to the moon's surface instead of coming back down here to Earth. And given that it weighs about the same as 2 cars, it's going to leave quite a dent. Sorry, Moon.
Squiz Kids for schools.
Did you know that Squiz Kids has its very own teacher? That's right, Amanda, who you may have heard hosting when I'm on holidays or in some of our Q&As, is a former journalist who became a teacher. And she's the head of Squiz Kids for Schools. If you've already signed up to be a Squiz Kids for Schools classroom, you'll get the Classroom Companion every day. Differentiated, curriculum-aligned literacy activities that are connected to this daily podcast. Then every Friday, Amanda drops a Squiz Kids shortcut to a topic in the news. This Friday will be all about the Winter Olympics, and there's a huge back catalogue of amazing shortcuts already in the bank for you to explore. Plus, Amanda produces an audio excursion to a different country each week. Tomorrow, she's taking us to Tonga, and next week we'll travel to China. You won't believe what many Chinese kids do at school on Mondays. Teachers, if you're not a member of Squiz Kids for Schools, why on earth not? There's a link in your notes to a free 30-day trial. And a huge and very special shout out to the following teachers and their classes who have just signed up as fully fledged Squiz Kids for Schools members. Mr. Harrington at St John's Primary School in Dennington, Ms. Mercer at Eltham North Public School, Miss Zeri at St Paul's Catholic Primary School in Camden, and Ms. Russo at St Luke's Anglican School in Bundaberg. Welcome aboard. Amanda and I are thrilled to have you.
Time for the quiz.
This is the part of the podcast where you get to test how well you've been listening. Question number 1. The Grand Slam tournaments in tennis include the Australian Open, the French Open, the US Open, and which other famous competition? Yeah, that's right, it's Wimbledon. Well done if you got that one. Question number 2. What's the name of the outback town in South Australia, famous for its underground houses, where emergency supplies are being airdropped this week? That's right, it's Cuba PD. Question number 3. Which Spanish tennis ace won the Australian Open men's singles in a marathon match in Melbourne on Sunday night? Yeah, it was Rafael Nadal, or Rafa for short.
Shout-outs.
It's February 1, pinch and a punch. Today is pop sensation Harry Styles' birthday. He turns 28 today. And it's also a special day for Finn from Parkwood, who's celebrating his birthday today. Plus, because heaps of you celebrated birthdays while we were all on school holidays, belated birthday shout-outs to Levi from Cooperoo, Dylan and Annabelle from Sydney, Corey from Carolyn Springs, Elspeth from Box Hill, Ashton from Kings Langley, Catherine from Surrey Hills, James from St Ives, Eva from Barden, and Jonathan from Murrelbach. Don't forget, if you've got a birthday coming up and you want a shout-out, or if you're after a classroom shout-out, drop us a line at squizkids@thesquiz.com.au. Well, that's all we have time for. Thanks for listening to Squiz Kids today. We'll be back again tomorrow. In the meantime, get out there and have a most excellent day. Over and out.